Welcome back to the top 10 list. This week, 10 words that have been ruined by simply being released out into the world and then whatever meaning they had, poof, gone. Thanos, unfortunately. Francesca, thank you as always for being here.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I'm looking down at my little listy poo.
Thinking of words. It's difficult to choose, just a few. Also, I'm realizing that I am accidentally destroying mine. There we go. It's difficult. So I tried to have a balance in my list. I have a couple that are just sort of internet stuff and they're kind of petty. And then I have more political ones too.
Totally.
I don't know where you focus your attentions, but
same. I have a few that are like the internet specifically is like a whole genre of things, but I can start and say first word kind of like spans them. But number 5, triggered is a word.
Oh, okay.
That has been completely devoid and now completely devoid of any meaning. So triggered, initially I think was used in trauma work and people talking about like actual things that might trigger their trauma and their fear of feeling unsafe, or like stories of abuse or rape or whatever it is. And like there's a lot of legitimacy there, but that was exposed to the internet, of course. And all right wingers do is read blogs that written by, I don't know, queer people of color, and they get scared, or like anything that's any kind of inclusive language and they get scared. So then they took triggered and then they started using triggered. And then I think the left in many good ways has taken the word triggered and thrown it back on the right, because in effect, they're the ones who get triggered way more often by the pettiest things, like a drag show. Like someone asking you to use their proper pronouns, like transitioning, whatever, like it doesn't matter. So like, but triggered is like now so far from what it initially was intended for. And I think that maybe it's okay, but it's just very much devoid of meaning.
Yeah, the difference being that that they say we get triggered by things that are active attacks.
Right.
And they get triggered by the existence of other people.
Yes,
that stuff is there. That is too much for them. But yeah, you're right. And you demonstrated how it can have multiple stops along the way of it. It had a meaning that was generally for a specific, sometimes academic purpose, or for a small community. And then you release it and just shred it. And there's nothing left after a while. Mine, this is my pettiest. And it's also probably the oldest of these.
Okay.
But the word, like, it's a word that had a meaning at one point that was kind of cool. And then everything on the internet was declared to be epic. And that was it. And it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like epic? Literally, a baby having its first lick of ice cream is epic. Yeah. A kitten walking down the stairs is epic. No, those things are entertaining. They're interesting. I like them and I watch them. I watch them over and over. But epic is like the Iliad. Like I like fantasy and sci-fi. I like actual epic things that are huge and cosmic, and it's not an epic cronut. It's not. It's a good cronut.
Ooh, but I do want to taste that cronut. Yeah.
I do.
But no, it can't be epic.
One, but no. What's your number 4?
Oh God. Okay, let's see. So okay, number 4 is the word gaslighting, the phrase gaslighting. I think that
theme to yours.
Yeah, no, but there's right-wing terms too, but gaslighting is definitely something. And like, I think people just got really used to saying gaslighting, and now everything is gaslighting and everyone's gaslighting everybody else. And I'm like, maybe someone's just manipulative or an asshole, or you know what I mean? They're just a bad person. But gaslighting is so specifically like telling someone that like what they believe isn't true, or blaming them for their own feelings. And I would say that the right definitely gaslights its own base, and the left as well. And oh my God, like liberals and such like that. But I feel like it's big on TikTok. Like not everything is just a gaslighting. Maybe we should reserve it for like specifically awful relationships, or like specific behavior. Like it's an argumentative tool kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it means a very specific thing. It describes a very specific phenomenon, and it just becomes the broadest thing imaginable. It's lying.
Right.
You're lying to me, so you're gaslighting. But no, that's not what gaslighting is.
Right.
But it's the thing, like there is a desperation to not use the same words.
Of course.
And there's a reason that we have to come up with new words to describe the fact that someone is attractive every 6 months. Because we get bored with just describing that someone's hot or whatever, even the word hot being used.
It makes more sense that we describe there are new ways of talking about lying. Like if anything, I'm more forgiving of the word gaslighting because we live in an age of like the upside down, right? And 2 + 2 = 5. So like that's, but yeah, lying is so basic. It's basic, which I stand.
There you go.
Stand basic.
My number 4 is an ode that, by the way, this channel has used, is an ode to the destructive power of the algorithm. Okay, and it is the word is actually destroyed. It's the way that the algorithm like requires you to use certain terms, even though they're not accurate, or at the very least could be far more accurate. Everything like Ben Shapiro has destroyed and been destroyed with everything that he has said or heard the last 10 years. And yet he remains, and all of the people he's talked to are still here. But that's what you have to use. Now there's obviously a lot of like iterations on that, thankfully. But I feel like that's the core one of once we got past, there was a period where all of the headlines were, you'll be brought to tears by this mother's tale of blood. They were all like appeals to emotion. That we got past that, and now we're in the people being humiliated and stuff like that. And I get it.
I didn't want to say destroyed, so I titled one of my videos for the Bitchuation Room, Jon Stewart's absolute annihilation.
Ooh, no, I get it. We do it. We do it.
Annihilation. No, you have to.
That's good. I like it. Yeah, you do, unfortunately.
Like, what am I gonna click on? Jon Stewart dresses down Republican. Jon Stewart insults. Or am I gonna click on Jon Stewart annihilates? We're gonna go with the annihilate. And it was an annihilation.
Yeah, maybe even better than the movie Annihilation.
Yeah, but Destroy, I don't even know that movie. Destroy for sure.
It wasn't bad. What's your number 3?
So this number 3 is like anarchism, which is a word that people don't really know how to use and don't really know what anarchism is. And so, for example, there's a new Netflix documentary, HBO documentary called The Anarchists, and it's basically just about like a bunch of like sort of well-off, weird anti-vax, Bitcoiny, like MAGA adjacent woo-woo people that moved to Acapulco to start like a whole commune. And they're not anarchists. Like they still believe in like monetary tender. They believe in Bitcoin. They're still like into borders. You know, they're still like living within certain regulations of like the Mexican government. There's just like it's. You know, and so what I think is we conflate libertarianism, which is like a far right version, with anarchism, which I associate with more of a far left. Like we don't believe in borders, we don't believe in standing militaries and armies and like, you know, that kind of stuff. Federal government control isn't good, but like local control can be good, like communal control, like living in community, which I think a lot of anarchists, like thinkers and philosophers and writers, like and organizers believed in. But like to say that these like crazy wealthy libertarians are anarchists, that drives me crazy. And also to say that like anyone who, you know, throws a trash can through a Starbucks window or like lights something on fire, like that's anarchy. It's like that's also that's insurrectionist anarchism, and we need to get specific.
100%, yeah, there's people who might ascribe to themselves the label who don't necessarily understand it, and it might not perfectly well apply. But then there's the connotation that it's a bad thing, which means that on the other side it's used as an attack rather than a descriptive ideological label. Yeah. No, it gets to the core of this list. It is specifics, which I think of as a good thing, being not. You can't tolerate them for some people. Like you have to drain it. You have to generalize. It also sounds
cooler to a lot of people to say anarchism versus libertarianism. Libertarianism just is like,
I get that.
Cool. Yeah.
It's lame. Yeah, I get it. My number 3, there's a lot of words that could be in this cluster, but we've been through multiple elections where this sort of thing gets thrown around. And I get to some extent what they are going for, but words are supposed to communicate things. So when you use a word that actually hides meaning, that to me is like an original word sin. It's the word rigged. Something was rigged. An election was rigged. A primary was rigged. Okay, how? To what degree? How much? Where did it affect things? Where did it not? There's so much.
Legal? Was it legal rigging?
Was it legal?
This was the thing with like the DNC, where you're like, yeah, it's rigged, but like that's also part of a really messed up primary structure that the Democratic Party has. As well as like the super delegates. So do you know what I mean? That's I'm thinking when Democrats said that like it was rigged against Bernie, and you're like, yeah, but structurally. So I'm not really sure.
Well, sure, but even that, like it could be rigged in so many different ways. I mean, there on the right, there were candidates that were not allowed to run in certain races. That's rigging. Okay, that's a structural legal thing. Then there's Buttigieg dropped out to help Biden. Well, that's inconvenient for us. It's not like they cheated. It's just like you don't have to use a general word when more specific words are available, because you fight back against those different forms of rigging in totally different ways. And so when your level of analysis is so general, then you're needlessly distancing yourself rhetorically from stuff that would be useful that you could learn from. Just declaring it's thrown around as I can't necessarily even describe exactly what was done, but I don't like it and I don't want to have to respect it, so I'll call it rigged. Case closed, we're done. I don't need to think anymore, and I don't like get out of thinking free cards. I think language should be about thought.
Trump really put that into, like, every time, words jump the shark when Donald Trump says it. That's like perfect. And rigged is one of those words, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Like maybe it started people talking about Democrats, and then when Trump uses it, we're like, well, now it's gone and there's no meaning behind it. And we know he's lying when he says things are rigged.
100%. Yeah. What's number 2?
Number 2. God,
we haven't any crossover yet. I'm shocked.
I know.
I think we will.
Okay, so obviously the word moderate. Moderate is a terrible word.
I love it.
We should get rid of it. Moderate Democrats, moderate, like, I mean, it's never even used against moderate Republicans, but like the idea that in a time of like insane global warming, like inequality, fascists on the street in khakis terrorizing LGBTQ folks and people of color, people running trucks into demonstrators, pulling guns on them, and then the storming of the Capitol. Yeah, screw your word moderate. Like it doesn't exist. And stop. I mean, and I do think we overuse corporate Democrats, but at least it's more specific because we're saying like you could say status quo Democrats, but the idea that has anything to do. Moderate is number one, what I was just saying, kind of out of step with the political reality that we're in, which is a time of extremes. But number 2, it's just really general.
Yeah, it's super general, and it's just it might as well be take out moderate, just say the word good. That's what the media means. They're good Democrats. That's all. Well, they're good or fine. They're great. Whatever. It just means they're. Yeah, exactly. No, they're better. It's just a term that means this is a good thing. We believe there's a connotation, like with anarchism, there's a bad connotation. Moderate has a good connotation, so we just put it on the Democrats we like. It doesn't matter if their tactics are actually moderate, if their positions are in line with the vast majority of Americans. We just like them, and it's a word we're allowed to say that means good.
Or if
I hate that.
Moderation in a time of extremes is actually extremism in and of itself. Again, you can't be neutral on a moving train, says Howard Zinn. And it's like, yeah, if you are moderate now, that's actually an extreme position. To say that like, well, let's keep drilling, in my opinion, is an extreme position. It's why I'm not like that excited about the new climate bill, because there's no even slap on the wrist for the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah, 100%. Mine is sort of similar, but it's on the opposite side. So it's the word neoliberal.
Great.
Like when words,
good.
Thank you. When words start in academia, there's no chance that they will survive once they get out there. It's not even that the people who use it aren't right. Sometimes they are, but the vast majority don't know what they mean by it.
They don't know.
Neoliberal for most people online means, in the same way that moderate means good, it means bad. That's what it means. It's bad. I don't like you. I disagree with you. But neoliberalism is a specific thing. You could talk about it purely, based on the economy, or you could even talk about it as a strain of the Democratic Party. But it just means you're bad and I don't like you. And it's not, you're not wrong. They are bad, and many of them might also be neoliberals. But the words are not synonymous. You should call them bad and neoliberal, or you should be more specific. Like the criticisms that lead to neoliberalism getting thrown around have nothing to do with neoliberalism, nothing to do with the economy, which is something that should be criticized. That strain of the Democratic Party should be criticized, but you drain the word of its sting, its power, when you just make it like calling a lefty a communist. Like even if your criticism has nothing to do with communism, they just throw it out there. Don't make neoliberalism their version of communist or socialist.
But neoliberalism is even more insidious in terms of how it's used, in my opinion, because people think it just means like liberalism for now. And liberalism and neoliberalism are actually very different things, And liberalism and sort of like, the ideas of democracy, pluralistic democracy, like a multitude of identities and ethnicities and cultures, like that's liberalism. Like actual representative democracy is, in my opinion, liberalism. You apply that to the economy and you just have a bunch of corporations and different economic entities conspiring together. That's neoliberalism, the IMF and the World Bank, like imposing their trade policies on second world countries and third world countries. Like that's neoliberalism. Corporate power is neoliberalism. And I really hate it when also the left doesn't understand that Republicans are neoliberal as total AF. Like they are super neoliberal. Republicans are absolute neoliberals. Remember when during the TPP discussion, it was the only time the Republicans who hated Obama, every single thing Obama tried to do. No. TPP, oh my God, my president, I'm standing with him. It was like the final day, like the final few months of Obama's presidency. We have to pass his Orrin Hatches on the floor going, oh, we gotta pass this TPP because they're neoliberals. Yeah. It's not just for actual liberals, that's different. Such a good one. Yeah. Such a good one.
Also, I think it could be thrown out there, but yeah, 100%.
I mean, liberalism, but the idea of conflating the economy with like the idea of a representative democracy is just very different.
What does that leave for you?
Shoot, dude, I don't even know. You took them all, and I did woke last time, but I will say, I just think the word populist.
Well, remember that. Oh no, sorry.
I think populist. Number one for me is populist. Populism has completely jumped the shark, and usually corporate media outlets will use it to describe right wingers who literally have no plan for the working class, have no understanding of it. They're just racist xenophobes, and they get painted as populists. You have Nigel Farage over in the UK. You've got Bannon here, and Trump and whatever. And no, sorry, populism has to do with like the will of the people, has to do with actual like the 99% working class values, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing that the right is proposing is populist. So stop calling them a populist. And again, the left will participate in this too. Oh, the right wing populists and the left wing populists have to get together. And we've talked about this, to throw people of color and gay people under the bus. Like, hell yeah. Like, no, man, no. Yeah. So that's my word.
That should have been on my list. That and moderate. Like I only wanted to fit so many political terms, but those definitely deserve there. Yeah, and look, there's a case to be made that the term populism makes me angrier than all of the others because it is such an artificial construction of people in the media and politicians wanting to pretend right-wing populists are just regular Republicans who are more explicitly racist. That's what it is.
Who listen to their base. I mean, if you want to say they listen to the racist, crazy QAnon moms in their base, that's not, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a version of populism. Whereas like,
you can't use that word when you talk about left-wing populists. You don't just mean playing to the worst instincts of Democrats or whatever. It is about a plan. It is about an economic focus of your agenda. On the right, like in theory, you could make the case that it just means that they believe all the same crazy stuff as their base. But I don't even know that's necessarily the truth because some of this stuff is so clearly top down. The focus on the trans community and all of that wasn't organic. They shouted it at them for months and then all of them believed it. Like if you have no plan for the working class, if you don't give a damn about the economy, stop pretending that you're popular. And again, you're totally right. There's this attempt to pretend that we should work together, that like all of these vulnerable communities should be run through a meat grinder because Cotton said that he would do a bipartisan whatever. Like that's not. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad to pretend that there's an equivalent on their side. There's not. Wanting to build a wall is not.
We both triggered one another, John. You triggered me with neoliberal. I triggered you with populist.
We did. Well, that's the purpose of these top 10 lists. Trigger each other and make each other uncomfortable. I'm gonna throw out as my number one. I mean, we have talked about it before, as you just alluded to, but I'm gonna throw woke as mine. I'm gonna add on to what you said last time. It is such an intentional misuse of the term from people who hated its actual use, who never had any interest in like whatever being woke or getting woke or whatever was supposed to mean. These people never had any interest in that at all. And now they just, again, what does it mean? I don't like you. That's all it means. You're being woke when I don't like you, and because I don't like you, you're woke. That's all it means. It has no more specific context. Joe Biden is woke endlessly. He's a wokester. What are you talking about?
Wokester.
Doesn't mean it.
I love the woke variations. Like, no, but you know what it means. It's shorthand for black people. It really is. It's shorthand for, you have any kind of race. Sure, it's shorthand for inclusion. Shorthand for you have a political awareness. You understand marginalized communities. You understand oppression. You understand power. You deign to discuss it. That's woke.
Well, and think about how sick that is. That like in the original context, it's you should be thinking about these things. You should question your beliefs, your understanding of history, and all that. And now it's used because those people, as you've correctly identified, hate diversity and inclusion, but also on some level know that like explicitly saying I hate that you're for diversity sounds bad. Tucker Carlson will still do it, but most don't want to do that. So now woke is a term they can use to attack it without sounding as prehistoric.
Well, and what woke did was to me, it actually was kind of nice because before you would just be like, oh, when did you become politicized? Like, when did you get, I would say that, ask of that a lot of my activist friends, like, how did you get involved? When did you become politicized? And that's like becoming politicized was like a term and it's really clunky. So like, I got pretty woke around this thing or I got woke around like that. I love that shorthand. But it also means like, we don't say the word politically correct anymore in that phrase. Like something's not PC, it was sort of an agreed upon, look, that's not PC, let's not say that, right? And then it was like, oh, right, and Bill Maher's politically incorrect. And now we shorthand for woke. Oh, I guess it's not woke enough for you,
Yeah, so annoying.
It's like, how about just like courteous? It's not courteous.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what is like respectful?
I just want words that mean specific things. We have so many of them. They don't all have to mean the same four things, basically. But that's what people want. Very irresponsible, and it annoys me on a petty level. Anyway, Francesca, thank you. I think that you absolutely destroyed this top 10 list. It was epic.
Annihilate.
Now, granted, we wrote it out in advance, so it was a little bit rigged. But that said, I appreciate your contributions. Thank you.
It's better than anarchism.
Obviously. That's why we have a script. But anyway, thank you to everyone making this possible, making our top 10 list possible. We really enjoyed doing them. Thank you for supporting the show and the network, and we will see you next time.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.